Hi, this is Guy Fratelloni. I'd like to talk to you today about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition book, Unearthed Arcana. And this book is definitely one of the most controversial books ever written for D&D, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the good ones. There are a lot of things in it, however, that were foisted upon the DMs and players at the time, and some of it is completely annoying and unusable. So, having said that, every edition has its own little flaws and quirks, should we put it. Let's go through this book a little by little, and I'm going to let you in on things that I'm talking about here. The first thing I'd like to talk to you is about comeliness, in which I just want to say never ever used it. The stat charisma, the ability score charisma, is what we've always used. And I meant to bring up a character sheet, but just to let you guys know, never ever used it. There's no purpose for having any kind of score for actual beauty, maybe unless you're talking about the gods. We go on to the newer races that were allowed for this edition, the Drow and some of the other races, and just an overall kind of re-understanding of how far these races could go in this newer book. I'm going to close this right now. And I made my own little table. It is exactly what's in Unearthed Arcana. It tells you quickly, if you want, say, to have a gnome, what its available classes are and how high level they could go to. I just want to say, though, too, that we use proficiencies for our game, and if you want to scrub or waste some of your proficiencies for continuing on in certain levels, I would allow my players to do that. Usually it meant the sacrifice of 4 or 5 proficiency slots. It might seem unfair to some of you, but there we go. Half-orcs, elven magic users, elven rangers of different types, gnomes, cleric, fighter, illusionist, all that. All it is just a reorganization and an understanding of what you needed, the ability scores you needed to continue on. I just want to say, too, that let's see. There were some new races introduced, and all of them work fine. There's no problem with that. A lot of the weapons that all these classes could use are fine. I don't think we've ever had any real bad discussions when it comes, in my game, when it comes to weapons that, characters can use. We use the Greyhawk gods, so some of them would allow clerics to use like a sword, like maybe Hieronius or some of the other ones which were like war gods. Alright, first problem, the Cavalier. The Cavalier, as written, while not unusable, is definitely a problem for most DMs, as it says that it's a subclass of the Paladin. And that's, to me, it never made any sense. It's a whole bunch of bunk that if you lose your title as a Cavalier, you become a Paladin or maybe just a regular fighter. Closing the book again. If I can find it. Okay. So, This was an article printed sometime later, the corrected Cavalier. So even the makers of this book, this was in Dragon Magazine, August 1989. I don't have the issue written on it, but this was a corrected version of the Cavalier. And in turn, I defined the Cavalier in my own writing. I wish I had done it on a computer, but it basically leaves most of the goodness that the Cavalier has, but it takes away a lot of the goofy stuff that he should never have. And I'm not going to go into detail because I don't know off the top of my head what some of that stuff was. I think it was like a stupid system of, guess what? Your strength, your constitution, and what was it? Dexterity increases almost every level, and you roll some dice. That's not fair to other players. It's not fair to other classes. But there's a chance at some of the levels that I put in, I think maybe 3 times in the Cavalier's career, you could choose to have one of them advance slightly. And obviously not over 18. So anyway, out of all of these, I looked in some of the Greyhawk books, and I made my own knightly orders. The Knights of the Holy Shielding, the Knights of the Watch, the Knights of the Watch Dispatcher Cavalier Kit, the Knights of the Order of the Heart, Furindy, the Knights of Valuna, the Knights of the High Forest, the Knight Protectors of the Great Kingdom, which is what me and my group are doing now, the Knights of Luna, a High Elven Cavalier Kit, the Uz Tyrant Knight, I could never say this right, the Medigia Knightly Order Kit, and there's just some codes for the Cavaliers to live by here, whether he's good, neutral, evil, and I've got some illustrations on how some of these knightly orders might look, kind of just showing off some of my artwork is all. Most of these guys are either good or neutral. I never really delved too much into the evil knights for illustration, but sometime maybe. Anyway, that's that part of it, and we haven't even gotten to Barbarian yet. I want to say that the Barbarian class, not really a problem, only that it tells you here somewhere that the barbarians should be different depending on where they're from. So you're going to have, say, barbarians of the plains, barbarians of the mountains, and so forth. And I made some character sheets which state what tertiary abilities these barbarians would have. And of course, they've got to follow these rules right here. They can only associate with certain classes at certain levels, which makes it difficult, say, for a mage, because he's got to hide his spell book, say, maybe until like 6th level. So the barbarian's like, hey, what's going on over here? Oh, nothing, just reading. Let's see. There's the Thief Acrobat, which is interesting to me, but we have never really used it. If somebody wanted to roll one up, I wouldn't be against it. They added some other stuff to other classes here. Nothing that would break the game. The spells all function really well. They added cantrips, but I think cantrips should have... I think they should have had maybe a little bit more power, but maybe some of them should have done a little bit less. I think things were not really thought thought out that well. The spells inside here are pretty good, maybe with the exception of a few that really aren't needed. They just felt maybe they had to fill the book up with some spells. Let's see. We'll get to the Dungeon Master section, and some things were left out of the Dungeon Master's guide, like how much should a spellbook cost and a few other things, and they kind of increased that in here. Oh, they also added like heavy plate armor and things like that, which were good. And they also decided that Elven Chainmail was finally magicked. In the first Player's Handbook and the first DMG, they said that there was Elven Chainmail, and it was lighter than regular chainmail, but it wasn't magic in any sense. In this case, they did change that. You've got a few new weapons. You know, there's like cudgels, whips, nothing too crazy. You know, nothing the players had to fight the DM to get. I don't think they added guns in this book, but and then they told you like how certain spells would work, maybe underwater. There's the new magic items table, and they did add a lot new magic items. At the time, Gary was just writing like crazy, and some of his adventures, magic items ended up in Unearthed Arcana, like the Caverns of Tajkanth is one that I know is a lot of the stuff ended up in here. They added the gods of the demi-humans, which appeared in the pages of Dungeon Magazine, and right here you've got some alternate systems for weaponless combat or disarming an opponent. I like the shorter version of the weaponless combat, and I also like the easier version of like here you've got disarming, but they've got really complicated alternate rules if you want to use them for like overbearing, grappling, and all that. Never really used that. But all the gods are here, except for Loth. Loth appears in the Fiend Folio. Let's see. And they even have the gods of the orcs with Grumsh and all that. It says what the clerics need to do to offer sacrifice, stuff like that. But, you know, as a DM, we don't really do that. We just kind of have them spend a little bit of their money. They've got a heavy section and pole arms in the back. Just sort of fill up the book. And that's it. The book's really good for what it is. But Gary definitely missed the mark on a few things early in the book. But the races are really well done. And later on in second edition, they added or came up with, I think, a very good system of, what was it? I've got a whole thing here with spell corrections. Let's see. I can't find it for whatever reason. They came out with a whole thing for different kinds of specializations for weapons in, I think it was skills and powers. And one of my friends really wanted, you know, say, what if you had a fighter that only specialized in a certain weapon or whatever? So I came up with a couple things and kind of stole from those books. It kind of limits the fighter in some areas, like I've got specialization of a single weapon group, and that might be used for certain classes. Weapon expertise, and I don't know why that's not here. I don't know what class that was. Was it Barbarian? Oh, here we go. And then, of course, you've got weapon specialization through mastery, where a fighter can go as high as regular weapon specialization mastery, weapon specialization high mastery, and then grand mastery. All of these require a certain amount of intelligence, and you have to find one of these masters somewhere around the world that is willing to train the fighter, and the cost of getting these other bonuses are expensive. Of course, fighters should be wealthy by the time they reach some of these levels, and if they don't get it, if they don't make the intelligence check to say that they were smart enough to learn this new part of the weapon mastery, they don't get to advance. And that's most fighters. Most fighters are only going to get basic weapon, regular weapon specialization, which allows the fighter +1 to hit, extra half attack around, which sounds weird for this edition, but believe me, it works, and +2 on damage. So, I mean, by the time they get +2 or +3 sword, these guys are doing around 20 points of damage if they're hitting with a sword, and they hit twice. So, the monsters are really suffering at that point, because most monsters, especially high-level monsters in D&D, have 40 to 60 hit points, probably max in this. Even dragons don't really get a whole lot. So usually it's a failed saving throw or some sort of trap or whatever that ends up killing a fighter. But, yeah. Obviously, the game isn't perfect. None of them are. It's just that I chose to remain with first edition because I love it. The 5th edition is great. I played it. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. Wow. I've gone on 17 minutes. Thank you so much. Good night.